But having revealed he's claimed in the region of £2 million of taxpayers' money and expenses over the last decade, as the UKIP leader shot himself in the foot. Joining us live from central London is Nigel Farage, leader of the UK Independence Party. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Mr Farage. Well, £2 million in 10 years in expenses, that's quite a gravy train you've been on.
Let's get this straight. Expenses and allowances, and every MEP gets exactly the same. If anything, my figures will be slightly lower than most other British MEPs. But I said that because let's get the truth out there. We're talking about Westminster expenses. What we're not discussing is how expensive MEPs are. What we're not discussing...
Well, hold on, these are European elections. We are discussing that, and you have been discussing
that. Well, thank goodness we are at last.
£200,000 a year, what have you been spending it on? Would you care to share that with us?
The vast proportion of it goes on the employment of staff. The rest of it goes, I run a big regional office in my constituency. I travel all over Britain. I've been the hardest working British MEP in this country every year for the last 10 years.
Can we see those receipts? Can we see the evidence of that?
I can provide the evidence for that, and you'd be shocked. Actually, you'd find that the system is so different to Westminster that, in fact, because we get lump sum allowances, I've actually spent more than those allowances and finished up substantially out of pocket.
So on top of your salary and your pension, at £200,000 a year, you're good value?
Well, let's put it like this. The European Union last year spent £2.4 billion of taxpayers' money advertising itself in schools and universities and backing yes campaigns in referendums. All that UKIP are doing is taking a tiny fraction of the money that's there and using it to put the other side of the story.
That's because there aren't many of you. You've only got 6 MEPs, or down to 5 now, aren't you? I mean,
well, no, your figures are all... I'm sorry. Listen, your figures are wrong. Your introduction is wrong. You said we're a fringe party. Last time round in the European elections, we came third in the country, beating the Lib Dems, and we beat Labour in half of the English region. So we are not a fringe party. We had 12 MEPs elected last time, and we expect to do better this time.
We'll talk policies in a moment, too, but you are beating up on the big parties about being greedy, the pork barrel, the greedy Labour, Conservative and Lib Dem MPs you're quoted as. I mean, it does seem a little bit hypocritical when you're boasting about milking the European Parliament for £2 million.
We are using the allowances that are there, that are given to us.
Well, that's the MP's excuse.
And no, hang on, we're not using it for personal gain. We're not buying houses and selling them off without paying capital gains tax. We're using the money to campaign in this country because what we believe is the British people deserve to have a referendum so that we can decide our future. And when the day comes, when we can vote to get rid of ourselves as MEPs, we will do exactly that. So,
I mean, what do you find on the doorstep? There's a lot of anger about these MPs' expenses. Are they saying, well, OK, we understand you're working very hard, so you're worth the £2 million, we'll forget about that?
What they say is, why is nobody debating immigration? Why is nobody giving us a chance to have our say on the European Union? And when we tell them that it costs £40 million a day just for us to be in this European Union, you know, the vast majority, the mainstream, respectable political view in this country now is we should not be part of this union. We should have a simple free trade agreement, and that's why people are coming to UKIP.
Yeah, I've read about that simple free trade agreement. I was looking at your website the other day, and you talk about how we should be more like Mexico or Norway. Now, Mexico's got interest rates of 5.25%, 10 times ours, and its falling growth last quarter was 8.2%. Minus 8.2%. Should we be more like Mexico? Let's forget swine flu.
In fact, what we have always said is let's be, above all, more like Switzerland. You know, Swiss companies have exactly the same terms of trade with other companies in France and Germany without being members of a European Union.
Well, let me read you the analysis about the Swiss economy from a respected city firm. It said it's one of the most open economies in the world, of course, and therefore may get dragged further by the global downturn.
Well, I don't accept that view. And the point is Norway, Mexico, Switzerland, countries all over the world can have a free trade deal with the EU without being members of it. And that's the point we're making. We don't need to be part of a union to do business with French and German companies.
Like Iceland?
Well, I mean, Iceland was an economy that got much too heavily geared towards its banking sector. But interestingly, outside of the European Union, they've managed to maintain their fish stocks, and they will stay, I'm quite confident, an independent country.
So is immigration really at the root of our problems? Is that your belief? That's what's caused the current economic malaise, which of course is the biggest political issue of the moment.
I have never, ever said that at all. But the biggest social issue in this country, without any shadow of a doubt, has been immigration and the massive migratory wave that we've had for the last 5 years. And the main reason for that is we're part of a European Union that gives total free access to people from very poor Eastern European countries to come here. And what UKIP have always said is it's mad to do that. Let's have a work permit scheme and let's actually know who is coming into the country and who is leaving the country. And that's the debate I'd like to have. And frankly, the Labour, Lib Dems and Conservatives don't want to have that debate because they don't want people to realise that they've signed us up to complete open borders.
But if you look at the source of growth over the previous decade, the majority of it has come from the growth in employment, which was helped out by the number of people who were able to come here by the expansion of the EU. Without them, inflation would have been rampant.
I think there's no doubt that having that amount of labour has kept wage costs down. I would agree with you on that point. However, to have had since 2005 a massive oversupply in the unskilled labour market has directly led to increased unemployment. And I would remind people that from 2011, those people from Eastern European countries will have exactly the same access to our social security system as we have. And there are one or two brave people out there, like the Chief Constable of Cambridgeshire, saying we simply cannot cope with this.
And just finally, Mr Farage, if more UKIP members, MEPs, are elected, will they be better value? Are you going to order them to... You are going to order them, I know, to publish their expenses, but are they going to cost us around about £200,000 a year extra? Is that the average cost of a UKIP MEP?
In fact, there are some calculations that say that each MEP costs the British taxpayer about £1.25 million a year. We would rather... We were all sacked, we all lost our jobs, we didn't have MEPs, we didn't have 75% of our laws made in Brussels, and we got back to being a self-governing democracy. That's what we want.
OK, Nigel Farage, thank you very much indeed. Coming up next...
To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.